Welcome. We are so delighted that you have decided to join us today to tune in wherever you're coming from, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, whether you're home, on the road, putting your makeup on, making dinner, whatever it is you're doing. We're delighted that you have chosen to join us. Today, Bonnie Low-Kramen and I are going to talk about women helping women in times of crisis and beyond. We are very excited about this topic. This is extremely close to our hearts. It's something that we both have spent a lot of time studying, researching, talking to people from every corner of this planet. And we've learned so much about what women are doing, how they're dealing with mean girl behavior, how they're attracting supportive relationships. And we want to just share what we've learned with you today. The reason why I invited Bonnie to join me is because Bonnie and I are like-minded on this topic. We both know that supportive relationships exist as well as mean girl behaviors. And so we want to talk to you about those very things. When I was writing my book, Mean Girl No More, it wasn't meant to be about that topic. It was meant to be about how to develop a powerful inner circle. But I actually felt called to write about the stories that nobody else was writing about, called to actually speak up and to share what had happened in my own life and to invite other women to share their stories. And once I asked, the stories flooded in. These behaviors have been going on for quite some time in our history. We have this culture as women of behaving in these ways that don't support each other. My hope is that today can begin the conversation that you each can have with the women in your life so that we can begin to shift the culture. The reason why I wanted Bonnie here today is because she is very passionate about this topic as well. She's been speaking on this topic for several years, and I know that she's got insights to share with you. So Bonnie, I am delighted to have you here with me. You are a mentor. You are a powerhouse. You are someone that I look up to. You are this radiant soul that I know that has so much experience and knowledge. And I'm just absolutely honored to have you join me today. So with that, Bonnie, I turn it over to you.
I appreciate that so much, Peggy. Oh my gosh, this is a very big topic and a really important one to both of us. You're right. I feel like over the years we've both touched on this subject in powerful ways. I'm a person who came to finding my voice very late, and how I found it was through the mentorship from women, specifically Olympia Dukakis and Vicki Sokol-Evans. And it was the women in my life who helped me discover my own. And I love, Peggy, the saying, you can't be it if you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so in watching other women, as we grow up from little girls, what I witnessed were the ways not to behave. And then I started witnessing the ways to behave, right? We have
Absolutely.
role models both ways, don't we?
Yes, yes.
And we get to decide. That's the thing about it, is that it's a choice about the way we behave with each other. But who are we emulating? Who are we copying? And that therein is where we get stuck. And, the passion in me about this subject comes from not only my own history in finding my own voice and understanding who I was and deciding how I wanted to behave, but in the work that we both do, traveling the world, teaching the world's assistants, who are 95 to 98% female. What I've seen in living color is how these negative behaviors between women slow us down, and how they stop us dead in our tracks from achieving our biggest goals, from achieving our dreams. And that's what really lights the fire in me, is that I don't want women to be slowed down. I don't want women to be stopped dead in their tracks. I want it to be better. And I feel like in a conversation like this, we can shine a light on what's going on. And in so doing, women can make different choices, right? I mean,
I
just because
totally
somebody's
agree.
behaved a certain way up till now doesn't mean tomorrow's got to be that way. That's how I feel about it.
I agree. I agree. And, when I listen to you talk about watching other women and learning the positive of what you can do, of what you can do to increase your own power, to increase your own possibilities of having your dreams come true. And so often when we're emulating someone else, we're not even conscious of who we're emulating and why. But once you experience what a truly powerful woman is, one who empowers and lifts others, I think you're forever changed. And I agree with you. I think about the powerful women in my life who have truly lifted me up, who have pulled me aside and had the heart-to-heart conversation of telling me what they see in me that perhaps I didn't see in myself,
Yeah.
telling me about behaviors that I may be exhibiting that are not serving me well, but telling me in a way that was loving and kind, not in a way to berate or to condemn or to put me down, but instead in a way to empower and to lift me up. So yeah, I think about so many of those stories along the years, and how much I think you and I both also share that we are nanas, we're grandmothers, and we have these wonderful little girls in our life that we want it to be a better place for them. And
Yeah.
I look at those little humans and think, oh my gosh, the woman you can be when you grow up, and how I want so badly to be that type of role model for them,
Right.
that I want to be doing something on this planet to make it better for them. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So let's kick it off by talking more about those powerful women stories. Let's talk about, if Bonnie, if you could think of a story in your life, an experience in your life where you had this one supportive woman or this group of supportive women that truly helped you during a certain moment of
Yeah.
your life.
You know, two things come to mind, and they happened around the same time. I don't think it's any big secret that I was in an abusive marriage for a long time, 27 years.
Oh gosh.
You can paint me an optimist. I kept thinking it was going to be better, right?
Right.
And when it was really clear that it was not going to be better, and I in a whisper, said I needed a divorce. And that of course happened. But what was so illuminating during that whole process is that there were some people in my life who didn't believe me. They didn't believe that it was abusive. And yet there were a whole group of other women who absolutely believed me. And those were the ones who had my back and were in my corner, because nobody knows what happens behind closed doors, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but so when in recent times, when there have been sexual harassment cases and there's a whole group of folks who don't believe that person, what I know from firsthand experience is how difficult, how torturously difficult it is to come forward and speak your truth, to say what's really going on. I think it's highly unusual for women to lie about that kind of thing. The other thing that happened was when I quit my job.
Mm.
I worked for a movie star. I worked for 25 years with Olympia Dukakis, and who won the Academy Award for Moonstruck as Best Supporting Actress. And I had what many people would term a dream job. And indeed I did. Olympia and I are still the best of friends, and we're still in very close touch. And for a long time, I never thought I would leave that job. I thought I would be a career assistant forever. And then of course I wrote my book, Be the Ultimate Assistant, which you recall. And I'm happy to say it's still serving assistants all over the world. And I started speaking. I was being asked to speak, and through the magic of the internet and email, I came to know what a need there was for training around the world. And so in 2011, I made the now or never decision to leave my job. I quit one dream job in order to take on another, because I knew in order to travel the world and speak and teach and all of that, there's no way I could support Olympia full-time at the level that she deserved to be, managed and worked with, right? And so interesting, when I finally resigned, which was painful to do. I mean, it feels something like grieving, really, when you're with somebody for 25 years. It's not exactly a divorce. It is not, but it's a breakup of sorts. Mm-hmm. And I recall how some people, some women in my life, were not happy for me. They were not. They were judgmental, and their attitudes were, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? You're leaving a movie star who loves you, who a steady paycheck. You're walking away from that. Are you nuts? Yeah. And I remember it really took me aback, because then there was this whole group of other women who were like, yeah, this is awesome. Go, Bonnie. And how so many women can relate to that idea, that how when you're manifesting your dreams, that not everybody is so happy to hear it. And it's what I've come to know from all of my thousands of dollars of therapy is that, which my students get to benefit from, right? And my friends, that people look at your life through the lens of their own life. And what I came to understand, when I quit, I didn't really have a choice at the end. Like it was calling me, just like your book called you. I didn't have a choice. It was something that I just needed to do. And if I failed, it was going to be my failure. And if I succeeded, it was going to be my success. But I had to do it no matter what. And, some people, what I came to know is that they wished they could somehow quit their job or do something else.
Absolutely.
So we need to understand where all those behaviors are coming from. But I was so grateful for the women who were in my corner, and that support you never forget. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when you're making that big leap. And I too have had that same type of experience. and I realized that their comments are not coming at you from a feeling of hate or disdain. Their comments are coming at you from a feeling of fear.
Right.
But they're afraid because they would never have the courage that you had. And so they feel that your decision was unreasonable, and they're afraid for you because they actually care for you. But it doesn't feel like that when it's happening. It feels like lack of support. I mean, I remember when I first met you, Bonnie, we were both speaking at a conference, and I had the opportunity to meet you there, and we just started talking, and it was a short but powerful exchange. And you had said, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to make a leap. And I remember we just shared that short, but again, powerful conversation, because in my heart of hearts, that's what I wanted to do too. But I wasn't quite ready to make that leap. And so for me, listening to you saying, I'm going to do it, and I'm not sure what my plan is, but I feel like I got to do it, it inspired me. It gave me hope to say, okay, so Bonnie doesn't have it all figured out in either, but she's willing to make the leap. And so,
that's
there's so many different realms.
You can't be it if you can't see it.
Right.
So I helped you see it. That's really what it is that, and women can do that for each other. And I get that it's all fear-based, those judgments, but we as women need to get onto it about what we're doing with each other, because we all remember when people treat us badly or judgy, and the haters and all of those descriptors. But what we especially remember, that Maya Angelou quote about, we remember who's got you, who backs you up, especially at the beginning. I don't know about you, but I have a special place in my heart for those who were in my corner from the very beginning, like those very first students, those first book buyers, the people who get you like at the beginning.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Mm.
I so agree. Oh my goodness. That just warms my heart to think about those people because, yeah, they gave us hope. They gave us hope. They told us that we weren't crazy, that our dreams could be realized. That was powerful. I
They
mean,
witnessed us. They witnessed.
yes,
We all want to be witnessed. We all want to feel valued and important. And honestly,
heard, right?
absolutely, and heard.
Yes.
One of the most powerful sentences that you can say to somebody is, "I believe in you. I
Yes.
believe in you. I see you. I
I
see what
see
you're doing,
you.
and I
Yes.
get you.
Yes.
You just keep doing it. You just keep doing it."
Mhm.
I remember when I showed Olympia the final draft of my book, and I was a little scared, thinking, because I write a lot about her in the book, and her first sentence to me, I will never forget it. Just like you won't forget,
Mhm.
those turning point moments,
Mhm.
conversations that have a real meaning for you. She said, "You really have something here, Bonds. Don't change
Oh.
a word."
Oh, wow. Talk about
You
supportive.
and
Talk about empowering.
yeah,
Oh my goodness, that
you
is
know,
beautiful.
do it, and then
Yes.
I wrote the sample forward, so that she wouldn't have to do it like assistants always do.
Yes.
And she said, "This isn't what I want to say. I'm writing my own damn forward." So
Oh
those
my gosh,
words
that is
are her words, not mine.
yes. Oh, that is so good. That is so good.
True story.
Well, I've had some incredible supportive people in my life. I mean, I think back to when I was a little girl and having different teachers and aunties,
Mm.
grandparents who just lifted me up and made me think that I was something special, from looking back, I mean, in grade school and not behaving well and having an aunt who always called me her little angel, and she knew that when she said those words I would then act like a little angel. So I mean, I remember those moments from when I was really really young, and I remember the teachers who believed in me, who gave me all sorts of positive praise and accolades and gave me opportunities. And then I remember getting, the opposite too, from clear back on the playground, girls who weren't so nice and who left you out of the game and who made faces at you and called you names. So my maiden name is Peggy Green. And Peggy, if you think grade school times, that turns into Piggy. And then when your last name is Green, then you're the little green pig. So it's like all the way back to grade school, right? And then you finally get into the working world and you have this thought, wow, things are going to be so cool. And for the most part they are. You have some incredible cheerleaders and encouragers and mentors who help you in your career, who teach you things, who show you the way without judgment, who you can ask a simple question and they'll give you the honest truth and they'll help you in your career and move you forward. And the same thing with executives, powerful executives who also act as a mentor and help you. And then there's the opposite of that. But I want to share first my supportive story. So several years ago, one of my grandchildren um, learned, he was 18 months old and he came down with cancer. And so he was just a baby, still in diapers, and he was airlifted to Children's Hospital, and it was extremely horrific, scary, uncertain, all of those things. And we learned that it was going to be a 3.5 year journey. And so we spent the first month out of town there at the hospital. He and his mother spent the first year either at Children's Hospital or Ronald McDonald House. My son he was there for 3 months and then went back to work and was traveling back and forth. So this was a big impact on our entire family. And there are many moments that we didn't know if he would survive or not. And through all of that, the support that I had in my workplace was over the top tremendously positive. People coming together, putting together potlucks, soup potlucks to raise money, and they handed me a big wad of money. People in the community who came together, they put together this fundraiser that was held during the middle of an ice storm, and it was packed. And my husband and I didn't lift a finger. Another fundraiser that came later that was sold out. And my husband and I go to a lot of fundraisers, and rarely, if ever, are they sold out. So tremendous support from every corner of our world. I mean, that to me taught me the power of support, right? In the times of your biggest need, and people are there. And that, I think, forever touches you to believe in the power of human nature, to believe in the power of people giving.
You must be familiar with that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, right?
Oh, yes.
Stewart, your story reminds me of that scene where the whole comes in and just puts the bushel of money on the desk and wants to help. I mean, I think in the same way, your community was telling you how much you mean to them. And I mean, so what a great story, Peggy. Wow.
Yes. Wow. Well, and so I had often taught about the power of an inner circle and about the power of creating authentic connections. And one of the things that I often will tell people is, when is the time to build a powerful inner circle? When is the time to build a powerful network? Not when you need one. You've got to build it before, because by the time you need it, it's too late. It's too late. So another powerful story in a negative way is about a mean girl. And I worked with this girl for over, and I'm going to call her a girl. I worked with this girl for over 10 years, and we shared an office setting. And so I saw her on the daily and felt her negative attitude. And it was just this constant source of negativity and sabotage and being left out and not included in the information pool and set up, and words under her breath, but yet I could still hear them, and just all of the classic mean girl behavior. And it was something that went on and on. I mean, like I said, I worked with this girl for over 10 years. And what I did over that time frame is what I'm sure a lot of women do. In the beginning, you may think, well, this is my fault. And so you change and you modify your behavior and you try a different way to interact, because this must be something that I'm doing. Then over time, I tried different techniques, because I'm a reader, I'm a lifelong learner, I'm a trainer. I kept reading and trying to gather more information to get more insights about how I could handle the situation better. And so I used crucial conversations. I used negotiating for a win-win result. I would try all these different techniques, personality styles, and we would have these one-on-one conversations. And I felt like we had gotten a certain way down the road and a new understanding, and things would be good for a week or two, sometimes a month. But then it would come back. It would come back. And what I realized over time that I want our listeners to hear today, it was never about me. Her behavior towards me was never about me. It was about my position. And when I learned that she had treated the person before me the same way, that was what I needed to understand. It wasn't about me, it was about the position. So there was nothing that I was going to be able to do to modify her behavior. What I needed to modify, what I needed to change, was how I reacted. That was the problem. It was how I reacted. It was how I took it in. It was how I processed it. Earlier, Bonnie, you talked about that we all put through our own filter. And then when we run it through our own filter, we have our own outcome, our own story that we tell ourselves. So once I understood it wasn't about me, now I could look at her differently. Instead of looking at her as she was coming from a higher place than me and I was here, that somehow she was more powerful and I was less powerful, I could look at her through the eyes of compassion. And I truly believe that when you start looking at somebody through the eyes of compassion and understanding they're coming from their place of fear, you know, also what we talked about earlier, they're coming from their place of fear. Yeah. They're hurting. They're hurting. And we've all heard the saying, hurt people hurt people. So she's hurting. So I can't change her. I can't modify her. I can't fix her. What I have to do is focus on myself and how I react to her. But when I looked at her through the eyes of compassion, the dynamic shifted because I was no longer the victim. I could have the courage to stand up and say what needed to be said. I did stand up and say what needed to be said in a professional manner. Mm-hmm. Because all that was required of me is for me to be a professional, to stay true to myself, to help her succeed, to make sure that I succeeded, and that we had a professional rapport. That was it. It wasn't to become her bestie. It wasn't to change her. It wasn't to make her nice to me. And once I shifted that, the behavior wasn't quite as strong. Perhaps it was still there, but I felt different about it. But I know that when you stop being the victim, the bully usually finds another source. Mm. When you stop reacting, they usually move on to someone else because the fun, the pleasure of it isn't there for them.
Yeah.
So
Can I ask you a couple of questions about that?
Of course.
So you were with her for 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. Early on, in those early years, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most, how stressful was that situation for you on a daily basis, on the average?
I think that when it was at its worst, yeah. I think that it was probably 8 to 10.
It was 8 to 10. And that's the danger zone. And like you and I have had massive careers, you know, over mm-hmm. 20 years. So I want to just make the point that we have learned about bullying and mean behavior through experience. We learn by burn, right? There's an expression, yes. Learn by burn. And our goal on this podcast is so that if any of you are listening in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, we don't want it to take
yes.
so long. We don't want
yes.
right?
Yes. Don't wait till you're 50 or 60.
Right. And we don't want you to live through stress levels of 6 and above. I mean, everybody knows what a high stress level feels like, but on a sustained level, that's the danger zone because we know that we pay a price for high stress levels. So I would, you know, it's one thing to understand the behavior and it's another thing to feel it in your body.
Right.
And you know, you will probably never forget some of the things she said to you. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You'll never forget it. So, and is it accurate to say, Peggy, that some of those things that she said to you, is it fair to call them traumatizing? Do you think it traumatized you?
There's a big part of me that wants to say no. And I think that no is coming from that I have moved on.
Right. At the time.
What I would like to say is it made a powerful impact on me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was part of the reason why I felt so called to write this book. Because again, you know, when I first started writing it, it was going to be about the power of the inner circle. And I just kept getting these prompts. And I'm sure part of those prompts were deep down inside of me to say, help other women. Yeah. Help women. Yes, there's the part of developing the powerful inner circle. But the reason why you need one is because there's mean girls out there, you know? So instead of saying it was traumatizing, I think that it was a huge life lesson of what doesn't work. You know, that's the other part is I think some women behave this way because they found that it gives them power. But I've seen over and over again, those women, their power runs out. Because sooner or later, the truth is there. I've seen this behavior in people that are HR directors. And sooner or later, what happened through different reorgs and whatnot is their powerhouse came crumbling down.
Yeah.
And then once the powerhouse came down, then people were finally honest.
Yeah.
So to me, the best thing to do is man, to just stay on the positive side of it, to stay on the side of being that powerful, supportive woman, not the powerful woman who sabotages others.
I mean, I'd love to just talk about the reasons why these things happen. I was so perplexed when I would watch women, grown women in the workplace, behave in ways that were that seemed so illogical and so short-sighted. And what I came to know is that socialization we get when we're really young is super powerful, really powerful. And that we as little girls, we get a message very quickly to look pretty, don't make trouble, don't make waves, know your place,
be nice.
Be nice, don't step out of your place, seek the approval of men and boys. We get messages like, wait till your father gets home. You know, these are generalizing, of course. In school, it's if you don't behave, you're going to go to the principal's office. We get messages early that boys don't get, you know, and we carry those messages straight up into the workplace. And also in junior high and high school, those messages about, you know, you have a clique and there are people who belong and the people who don't belong, and she doesn't fit in and her hair is this way. And we're very judgmental. Women are very harsh on each other. In fact, women are much more harsh on each other than they are on men. And so when those messages, that socialization is not broken, you can understand some of these behaviors in the workplace, even though they seem so odd. You're like, why are we not inviting Susan to lunch with us? That's just a manifestation of what used to happen in junior high school. Grown women are behaving in the ways that they were trained because they never found any reason not to. And that's why it's so important to have role models that show you another way to be with women. Because you know what's the truth is that a lot of these women are behaving in these ways, Peggy, and they don't even know it. They don't even see it. They're oblivious and clueless to the impact that it's having on us. You know, we're sitting there and we're like, ouch, that hurt.
Yes.
You know, hear you say that. And so, you know, it's important for everybody listening to just take some time for yourself to try to understand the behaviors that you're seeing around you. And perhaps you can track it to childhood and what you were told, what we were told. Because wow, you know, you've never forgotten what Auntie told you, you know, to be an angel, and maybe you're telling that to your kids. Or I mean, we tend to repeat history. And these cycles continue unless somebody comes along to say, you know what, I'm not sure that's working. And I hope you and I can be that message. Olympia certainly was that for me, and many, many more.
Right. It's about the disruption. About the disruption of that and shifting the culture. And, you know, I think about the be nice message. And if you carry that forward, you can be a really nice mean girl. And this is why it is so hard to detect when you are the one who's being attacked and you're trying to explain it to a coworker or to your manager, to your executive, to your friend, because we've learned for so long to be nice that even when we're being mean, it sounds like we're being nice. So it's
otherwise known as passive aggressive, right?
Yes, it's a difficult process, but yes, I think that is great advice, Bonnie, to go back and to track it and to try to figure out, is this similar behavior that happened when I was a young girl on the playground?
Yeah.
or is this new behavior that's happening all the way up into the boardroom? The other thing that I like to advise people to do when they're experiencing something like this is to write down what actually happened, not how you felt, not what you thought, to take the emotion out of it and to write down what was actually said. Because sometimes, not always, but sometimes they're not being a mean girl. Sometimes it's like what you just said, that they don't even realize it. Sometimes it's a styles issue. Sometimes it's our own emotion that's not in a good spot, that we put it through a filter and we thought and felt that they had said something different. Um, I mean, Bonnie, I remember over the years, there's been times where I didn't quite get you. You didn't quite get me.
Mm.
And so, we had to have that conversation. And so sometimes it's not about somebody being a mean girl. Sometimes it's just that people are different. And so I think it's a great idea to really look at the behavior and to not just jump
Yeah.
to a
Well, one more
conclusion.
note about that is that the other message we get when we're young is to have a default. A young girl's default is, if we hear criticism of any kind, is to take offense, is to
Right.
get defensive. And that the thought process is, wait a minute, what's the agenda here? The instinct is, the default is to think, to be skeptical, to be suspicious, to not, the default, of course, what we want to have it be is, oh, she must be telling me this for a good reason.
Right. Yes.
Let me hear
Yes.
this. Let me hear this. But the default with many, many women is to take offense and to
Right.
be really suspicious. And I'm here to say, wow, we need to figure out mechanisms in the workplace to not allow that to be the default anymore. Because my gosh, in this current environment in the workplace, there's too much at stake to waste that kind of time, because all the preoccupation with the negativity is a time waster for
It
sure.
is. It is. It robs our energy. It robs our joy. And I agree with you. When, having that natural reaction when somebody is giving you feedback, to have it come into this negative place and
Mm.
this place of hurt, instead of saying, wait a minute, this person cared enough about me to offer me some insights that perhaps I didn't know. One of my mentors, Bryce Linville, from way, way many years ago, he taught me this powerful tool that he said, you need to assume positive intent.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could start there,
Yes.
right? That, okay, Bonnie is willing to share some feedback with me because she cares about me, because she wants to help me. That's why she's sharing it. It's for a positive intent. It's not to hurt me. It's not to hold me back. It's not to make
Mm-hmm.
me not feel good about myself. It's because she cares about me. And if we started from that place,
Right.
oh my goodness, what we could learn,
And
instead of feeling off put and pushing it away, but embracing it and seeing, gosh, I didn't know that. Tell me more. Tell
yeah,
me more. Help me understand more.
I love
And
that expression,
right?
help me understand. I think that advice about assuming good intent applies to marriages, it applies to friendships, it applies to a lot of relationships. And I applied it to my own assistant. I've been working with an assistant for 7 years, and I've with our BTUA students, I think that we as women in the workplace could do a much better job right from day one, right from the beginning, when we set the expectations about how we're going to work with each other. And it can be, let's talk about feedback. Let's talk about, as we move through projects, the time to have this conversation is not when you're in the middle of a project or when things are
Right.
stressed. It's before anything happens. And with my own assistant, I said, we're going to be doing different things, and I'm going to change my mind, and I'm going to have changes. And because I made this mistake with my prior assistant before Jen, where she did take offense and take it personally whenever I would try to give feedback. And what
Mm-hmm.
that does as a manager, it makes you stop giving it. It makes you having to tiptoe. It's so exhausting, isn't it? To have to
Yes.
tiptoe around people and have to judge every word. So with Jen, right from the very beginning, right at her interview, I remember saying, so when I give feedback, this is not about you. It's not about your bad. Your job's not on the line. It's simply that I've changed my mind, and it's about that I wanted to try something different. And
Mm-hmm.
and then I said, I remember saying this, how do you feel about that? Is that something you can be okay with?
Mm-hmm.
Because I honestly, I can't work with anybody who is it that's going to take offense at that kind of thing, because it's going to happen all the time. And then
Right.
that
Right.
enabled us to begin on the same page. And I'm sharing it because I found it with our BTUA students as really helpful advice. When you're bringing on new people, to set the expectation right from day one, and that will diffuse the default behavior that we've all been taught, which is to take
Yes.
offense. We're talking, I call it the elephant in the room, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
elephant in the room is we are going to choose as a group to be
Mm-hmm.
invested in each other's success, and we're not going to let anybody fail. We don't want
Yes.
you to fail. We want you to succeed. And sometimes that means giving compassionate feedback.
Right. Coming alongside you to help, right? Not to hurt, not to hold back, but coming alongside to help. Yes. So let's talk about, we've been dancing all around many of these tips already, but let's just get really uber focused and talk about why now is the time. You know,
Mm.
I the title of this podcast is Women Helping Women in Times of Crisis and Beyond. So right now we're going through COVID-19, which is a huge crisis worldwide. And so often during crisis, it presents the perfect opportunity, the perfect storm for more negative behaviors to come out, because people are starting to feel desperate. They're dealing with uncertainty. They're going through the whole worry about, am I going to lose my job? And there isn't enough work, and all of those things that can set up that perfect opportunity.
Right.
So the thing that I firmly believe is that no one is an expert at navigating through this crisis, because we haven't gone through this particular crisis before.
Mm.
I have never heard of so many people working from home as they are right now. So we haven't been here before. And the truth is that what we choose today, all of those actions that we make today are going to carry us forward positively or negatively. We're going to impact other people's lives in a positive way or a negative way. So let's talk about breaking through the current issues, whether they're because of this pandemic or they're because of the stereotype behaviors that could drive that negative mean girl behavior. Let's
Yeah.
just talk through those.
I think an obvious one is the idea that in a very short amount of time, women, because we know the profession is 95 to 98% female, these women in a very fast amount of time were sent home, and many of them are alone at home or with a pet, or not with other human beings. And I believe, Peggy, that has been a trigger. The trigger is straight back to childhood, where you're being ostracized, you're being isolated and alone.
Right. Excluded.
And excluded, exactly.
Yes.
And even assistants who have great relationships, or pre-pandemic had great relationships with their executives and their teams, all of a sudden are having to communicate with a camera inside their home. I mean, this feels really vulnerable for
Very, yes.
a lot of women out there. And so you can see, you called it a perfect storm. I think you're spot on. That it could be triggering a lot of feelings of being alone. And fortunately, social media has been a really great antidote to that. And all of these Zoom meetings, but not everybody's good at it. And you've got people
Right.
who are introverts and aren't natural to, like, they don't know really how to look into the camera, and they're not that familiar with the technology. And even
Right.
we've had a learning curve. I mean, truth be told, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm still learning. Still
And
learning. I
we
mean, one
get
of these
paid to do
days I'm
this
going to
stuff.
have my lighting just right, you know.
So
Yeah.
that I I fear that. I fear that it's being a trigger for many women, and
Mhm.
I want to do everything I can, and I know you do too, to support the community, for those who are finding themselves out of work, to use
Right.
the community, to use the other women and men, but mostly women, to help them find new work. This is not the time. Women in general, we tend to isolate in times of
Mhm.
crisis. And this is one crisis that is crying out for community and collaboration and partnership, is what I see.
Yeah. And you know what's really been interesting too? And I didn't expect this. I was shocked, surprised. I still am surprised by this.
Okay.
Is that so I'm an extrovert. I absolutely love being with
No.
other people. Love, love, love being with other people. I get tons of energy for being with other people. I love to shake hands and to hug people and, you know, all of those things that happen in person. And because of that, I didn't think that we'd be able to have deep connections, moments of a deep feeling of connection and engagement with people over Zoom. I didn't think it was possible.
Mm.
I um I thought it was going to feel more like what I refer to as the outdated webinar, where you have a slide up and the speaker is in the corner and they just broadcast at you. But what I've learned is that when you're all on camera together, and whether you're going through training, a workshop, or a conversation, when you're having collaborative conversation, you can still have incredible engagement just by seeing each other. Sure, you don't have all of the same
Mm.
uh, body language communication, but you have some. I mean, Bonnie, I can see you smile. I can see you nod your head. I can see you raise your eyebrows. I can see you lean in. And that tells me we're communicating,
Right.
you know, that there's still something there. And so I've been pleasantly surprised that we can have it. It is harder, it takes more energy.
Right.
We have to have the desire to put ourselves out there. I mean, when you talked about vulnerability, you know, I've been seeing different people on these Zoom conversations where you see a child come into the view, you see a pet, you see a partner, you see that their office is their bedroom or their kitchen table,
Right.
that it's not a perfect setting, right? But the beautiful thing is, we're in our homes. And typically, we're not in the homes of the people that we work with.
Right.
A lot of people that I work with that I loved dearly, I had never had them to my home. And so, Zoom or whatever medium that you use, you're welcoming people into your home.
Yeah.
People are not hiding behind the corporate facade. There isn't the corner office where you see the suits walking down the hall to the corner office where you don't have a meeting and you don't feel welcomed and you don't feel included and that you're not a part of. Instead, everyone is on this even playing field on Zoom.
Mhm.
It's like the
Yeah.
hierarchy
Very
isn't
true.
there. People are dressed more casually. A lot of people haven't been able to get their hair done in a very long time.
Right.
So people's appearances are different. And so I think all of that creates this vulnerability
Yeah.
that if we allow it, if we have the confidence and the courage, if we allow it, can actually create this opportunity for a deeper connection than what we've had before.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you, Peggy. There's one other piece I would like to raise about this current situation we're in with COVID, is that at this moment in time, there's still more questions than answers. Like
Yes.
when you think of pre-pandemic, you used a word, confidence. We know that there are women out there who suffered from some low confidence and low self-esteem pre-pandemic. I'm afraid that that's still the case post-pandemic in this situation. And so on the webinars that I've been involved with, we see a lot of fear, we see a lot of anxiety and stress. And I think it's important that on this podcast, we just talk about the need for attention to mental health,
Yes.
and personal wellness. And the stress and anxiety is there for good reason. I mean, I feel it myself because, you wonder, are we ever going to go back to the office again? And,
Right.
and I went yesterday for some blood work, and the nurse had on a mask. And then on top of the mask, she had on a clear face shield. And I had on a mask. We were trying to carry on a conversation, and I'm admitting to you that I pretended I understood her, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Zoom is pretty fabulous at this, but
I do too.
but when we go out in the world, and if masks are going to be a part of our new normal, I'm yearning to have a transparent mask so that we can see each other's mouths.
Right.
I'm a little concerned, like if we're talking about now's the time to focus on what's that going to be about interpersonal communication if we can't
Yes.
see each other's faces.
Right.
Yeah, about the mental health piece, though, what I want to say on this podcast is that everybody needs a little extra help sometimes. So
Absolutely.
if in fact you are experiencing extra high anxiety and stress, I urge you to get professional help. I urge you, you can email me and I'll help you find it. And I feel, Peggy, you must feel the same,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. And yes, I have all sorts of resources
Yeah,
because
I do
I have
too.
family who deal with mental health, and so I would be happy to get you pointed in the right direction. And also, if you need help in confidence, please reach out to me. I have done several confidence workshops, and the reason why I did them in light of this pandemic is because, just like Bonnie said, people are struggling with that topic, and I've got some takeaways I could send you right away. So please reach out. But I also, Bonnie, I appreciate what you were saying about the clear mask. My husband and I were going for a walk last night down by the river, and we both wore our mask. And the sun hadn't gone down yet, so I had my sunglasses on. And whenever we walk down the river, we always say hi and we wave to people. Even that we don't know, we just are being friendly and we smile and wave. And so we were doing that last night, and I was thinking, okay, I've got my smile on and I've got my smile on in my eyes, but they can't see it. They can't see it because I've got the mask, I've got the sunglasses. And so that body language, the only thing they saw was my hand.
Right.
Right. And so it's that awareness. And that's why I say that communicating remotely, whether it's on the phone or through a video call, to understand you're going to have to be even more animated
Yes.
for people to see you and to
Yep.
hear you. You're going to have to over communicate all those things, because if you don't, the translation could be lost. Yeah, it could be easily lost. Yes. So the other thing that I have been hearing a lot about is women that are working from home with children that are still in school, and about the struggle of trying to be a great employee and a great mom, and making sure that your kids are homeschooled and that your kids are tuning into their Zoom education on time, but you were in the middle of a meeting. And so I think about, if in the workplace, if you have one woman who doesn't have children, or their children are raised and grown and not in the home, versus the other woman who has children that they're still raising at home, and that clash alone. You know, we all know about the differences between men and women, and about how often women are the ones that care for the children. And so the men tend to climb higher in their career while the women are being mothers. And I worry about this pandemic, about that clash between the women, you know, speaking on this topic, about how women may not have the patience or give someone grace who is falling behind, because they're now being teacher, mother, and worker.
Right. It's a very real problem. And the only solution is communication, right? And sharing on the team. I'm hearing a lot of great stories about teams that are really being hypersensitive to these issues. But you wonder, how long is that going to last, right?
Yeah.
And
So the other fear, of course, is the possibilities of being let go. The fear of, is my business going to be able to stay intact? Whether you have, you know, you're working for a small business or a large company, how long can they go? And so again, all of this just creates that perfect storm. So Bonnie, let's move into, what are some of the ways? I know we have a long list, but what are some of the top ways that women can support each other?
The first couple that come to mind, Peggy, are number one, to help other women generously and without keeping score. No tit for tat. That we're not going to say, oh, I'm only going to help her 3 times next week because she only helped me 3 times.
Yes.
Like, none of that. The keeping score is killing us. And frankly, guys don't function like that. We really need to just understand. I just read a great book called The Go-Giver. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
You have to go. Do you know it?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I guess I'm new to the game here. A Go-Giver. It's a terrific book. The other, which, you know, talks about ideas like this. And the other thing is to be proactive about helping other women, and to not wait to be asked necessarily, but to be proactive. So many women choose not to be proactive because they worry that somebody's going to be, go into that default and be suspicious. But it's, it seems to me you could use a little help here. Could I be of help? And then just jump in and say, can I do this? I'd really like to help you. And just do it with an open heart and a really positive attitude, and that will be infectious. It can be like a new way of role modeling. Those are the first couple of things that came to mind. What do you think?
Yes, I think those are all great. Kind of chiming in more on what you were talking about. Sometimes what can create a bad rapport is when someone is a taker. So I love that you brought up, the go-giver. One of the things that I've heard that resonates with me so much is to give, and then ask. That it's not about asking first, it's about giving. And then on the flip side of that, it's asking other women, what do you need? How can I help you? I think about all of the collaborative relationships I have with my speaker friends, and it's the most gracious thing that takes place when we say, how can I help you? How can I serve you? What's something I can do for you? And to genuinely mean it, not to go, oh, well, I didn't want to do that. I was just being nice, right? But to really mean, how can I help you? Because sometimes we may think what someone else knows, what someone else needs, but we may not know.
Right.
We may not know. We may be coming from our own mindset, our own filter of what we think they need. But just to say, how can I help you? What do you need? And the beautiful thing is that when we help someone else, our confidence grows. It makes us feel good. So that it's like, give and repeat, like keep doing it. It makes you feel great. Yeah.
And on these Zoom calls, if you're observing somebody on the team who's being particularly quiet, or behavior of your colleagues, and if there's something you see that's out of character, even if it's with your executive, I mean, this is such an extreme time in the world.
Right.
I
Right.
am all for just, understanding that a lot of the old rules don't apply. And
Oh
it's
my gosh.
and it's
Yes.
freeing, isn't it? It's freeing
Yes.
to
It's
just
like
say,
all the rules are breaking, everything's new.
yeah, hey, listen, I'm picking up a vibe that something might be wrong. Is there something I can help you with? Is there,
Yeah.
is there something you'd like me to do? Even if it's
Right.
not officially your job. I mean,
Yes.
that's the situation we're in, because you made a point earlier that people are going to remember what's going on right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is there's a lot in common with 9/11, I think. Like, we all remember what happened then. We remember where we were, and we remember the weeks, the days, the weeks after it happened. I think we're all going to remember the beginning part of 2020, and we're going to remember how people behaved with us.
Right.
When we're back into something that's the new normal,
Yes.
I can't imagine we're ever going to go back to what it was.
Right.
Should we're going to remember the kindnesses, someone extending an extra hand,
Mm-hmm.
and it will matter. It
It
matters.
will. It will. It's that defining moment. And it's a way that we can create a stronger reputation. If through this whole moment, this long challenge, to sometimes for me, when it's a crisis, when it's a really difficult situation, if I think of it as a challenge, then somehow that gives me some control.
Mm.
And so if I think of it as a challenge, to say, okay, your challenge is to be even more innovative, to be creative, to be caring, to be compassionate, to be giving, even in the midst of this storm, even though things are hard for you, to challenge yourself to continue to help other people. That somehow that provides some inner strength to look at it that way. Another thing for women helping other women is to be a mentor and to have a mentor. And until I had a great mentor in my life, I don't think I was ever able to be a great mentor. Because in the beginning, I thought a mentor was somebody who basically solved your problems and told you what to do. But I learned, no, a great mentor is a great listener. They're a great listener, and they have this wisdom because of their years of experience. And they do love and care for you enough to give you the truth, even if it may hurt a little, but they'll tell you the truth, and they'll help you to solve your own problem. They'll help you to figure out what your chosen path is, but they won't give you the answers. And so I truly think that one of the best ways that we can support each other is to find that incredible mentor for your life. And the beautiful thing is if I've heard some people say, well, I just don't know anyone. I don't know anyone like that. Well, some of my greatest mentors I've never met. Oprah Winfrey is my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Maya is my mentor. I mean, you don't have to actually meet these people. You can read their books, you can watch their videos, you can listen to their podcast and learn a ton, and they can still be your mentor from afar. Right. But then there's other people that you can have. Bonnie in many ways is my mentor for a business model. So you don't have to have one person for every area of your life.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Some people get hung up on the semantics of it all.
Yes.
And the verbiage. We have mutual colleagues who, are very set. No. A coach is this and a mentor is this.
Yes.
And I use the words very loosely. It's simply that ear, that educated ear, someone who like Sheryl Sandberg, who wrote Lean In, says,
right.
A great mentor is someone who has no other agenda other than they
Mhm.
care about you and are willing to give you
Right.
feedback. That's really what it is. And I love her advice for women to do the same, is that
Mhm.
imagine what it could be between women if we choose on this day to look at the other women in our lives with fresh eyes and to decide that we're going to support each other's choices, that we're going to give the judgments a rest, no more working moms,
Mhm.
at war with stay-at-home moms and every combination in between.
Mhm.
How about we know that we don't walk in anybody else's shoes, and
Right.
and how amazing it would be if other women helped us with our own agendas and we helped them with theirs. All you needed to
Right.
know is, tell me what you need. I really want to know what you
Yes.
need. But in this COVID situation, it really brings up the vulnerability. And I know for myself that I've had to kind of squish down the fear of like the not knowing, and to just be, no, 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 it's going to be okay. Let me
Right.
let me open up again. Let me extend. Let me
Mhm.
just see who's out there, who's around.
Yes.
Know that you're not
Yes.
alone. That's
Right.
that's the thing.
Oh
We need to know
gosh.
we're not alone, and we want to feel normal. We want to
Mhm.
feel whatever normal feels like is to, but we don't know what's going to happen with our kids. We don't know what's going to happen with our offices. So
Right.
it can make you crazy. And we need to try very hard. At least we know we're all in this together, that
Yes.
everybody doesn't know the answer to this. You're not the only one.
No. 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 And again, no one's an expert at this.
Mhm.
And it's about taking that one day at a time. And assistants are so great at this. We make a plan, and then change happens, and so we make a plan B, and change happens and we make a plan C, and thank God that there's more than one letter in the alphabet, right? So we can all just keep adjusting, but it's not about you have to have it all figured out.
Mhm.
But when it comes to our behavior, we can control that. We
Mhm.
can control how we treat other people.
Yep.
uh, one of the best pieces of advice I got several years ago was to take the power of the 5 people that you spend the most time with
Mm.
is who you're going to become. And so to actually evaluate them,
Yeah.
to make a conscious list, to take a moment, just to write down the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I know with COVID, it's a little bit weird. It's like the 5 people I live with, you mean, because that's
Yeah.
the only people I spend the time with. But make it be pre-COVID, right? So who were those 5 people? And so you might have some people in your family, you might have friends, you might have coworkers on that list. And then once you create that list, to look at them and say, okay, the people who lift me up, who support me, who believe in my dreams, who encourage me,
Mm.
even if my dreams are big and out there, right? The people who trust in me and I trust in them enough to give me the feedback, who care enough about me. All those people get a plus beside their name. And the people who rob me of my joy, the people who don't want me to grow because it scares them,
Mm.
they want me to stay exactly who I am right now and just to stay right here because it makes them feel comfortable. The people who deplete you, like we've probably all experienced a moment where we go see someone and we feel worse after we spent time with them than we did before we got there.
Mm.
Anyone like that, you put a minus beside. And the people, those 5 people, if you have minuses on that list, you don't need to X them out of your life. I'm not telling anybody to go out and get divorced or to cut somebody out of your life. And I know this is hard because sometimes these people are family. But what I'm asking you to do is to put some distance between you and those other people. Because if we have a woman or a man in our life that is holding us back, that is treating us with negative behaviors, we're never going to be, we're never going to become that woman that we were meant to be. We're going to be held back. I mean, it makes me emotional to think about it. We've got to put some distance between ourselves and those other people in order to truly grow and to become who we were meant to be.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to do that. It's a powerful exercise.
Yeah.
It's not easy when you really look at somebody to say, well, this person's been my bestie for 35 years, and I love spending time with her, and she makes me feel comfortable. But at the same time, she's not encouraging me to grow. And whenever I do try to grow, she's holding me back and telling me she's not sure if I can do it. You know, those types of people, just put some distance and find somebody else. Find a Bonnie. Find somebody else that you can add into those 5 people that you spend the most time with so that you can move forward.
That's good advice, Peggy.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else, Bonnie?
Well, I just want to encourage everybody listening, Peggy, to take a chance on the people around you. That, Peggy's great advice about finding a mentor could mean that you really go for somebody who might not have been on your list pre-pandemic, but is now, for whatever reason. This pandemic has brought us really close to thinking the hard questions, thinking hard thoughts. People are getting sick, and so we're close to our own mortality, right? I'm just going to say it. And we think about that. And so I just challenge all of us to think about our 24 hours in a day and how we want to behave each day. And you know what? Today's a new day.
Yes.
To choose some different way of being. If you decide after hearing something Peggy or I shared that means something to you, that will make a difference, that take a fresh look at these women in your life who you might not really know as well as you think you do. Life is short. We've seen that. Life is really short. Let's take this opportunity to just kind of wipe the slate clean and start fresh, because it's so worth it and it's so much more fun. And
much more fun. Yes.
And Peggy, thank you for initiating this. I want to hear what you have to say about all this, but I'm really grateful for this opportunity to talk with you about these things, which are not so easy to talk about.
They aren't, but this has been powerful. So thank you, Bonnie. Thank you so much. I believe that these conversations need to happen more. And what's interesting is, just like any other skill set, the more that we talk about it, the easier it becomes. So I thank you for joining me and for helping to provide some insight into how women can help other women in a positive way. So thank you so much, Bonnie. Take care, everyone. If you need any help at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to Bonnie or myself. We'd be delighted to help you.
Yes, we really mean it. All right. Take good care. Thank you, Peggy.
Bye.
Bye.